Hello and welcome to the Rising Coaches Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bender, and today's episode is brought to you in part by Boost Analytics. Boost is a one-of-a-kind technology company that provides NBA caliber analytics and video analysis to a select number of men's and women's Division I basketball programs. Boost uses artificial intelligence and natural language technologies to make analytics more user-friendly, translate complex data into easy-to-read coaching insights. The Boost platform was built by data scientists and basketball experts with decades of experience at both the collegiate and NBA levels. To learn more about Boost and how your team can gain a competitive edge, head on over to their website at www.boostsport.ai and join the fastest growing team in college basketball analytics. Also, if you're not already a member and are interested in joining the largest coaching tree in basketball, visit risingcoaches.com to sign up today. You'll build genuine relationships with other coaches, have access to amazing content that will allow you to develop your craft, expand your network, and see job opportunities on our member site that don't get posted anywhere else. For more information, visit risingcoaches.com. We have a special guest today, all the way halfway across the world, Kris Thiesen, all the way out in Tokyo, Japan. He's currently a counselor at international school. He's a head coach at St. Mary's in Tokyo, and he also has his own club / if you call it an AAU team, Tokyo Samurai Basketball. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome to have you. It's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last month or so, and I'm excited to continue to build our relationship. I know you're a Rising Coaches member, and tell us a little bit about why you joined Rising Coaches, and then you can kind of dive into your story and go from there.
Sure. I think like a lot of people during the pandemic, we didn't have lots of things to do. And I don't remember where I actually heard it from, but I heard about Rising Coaches. And, for me, like being international in Japan, I mean, I'm from the States, but I've been in Japan for 15 years, and to kind of be able to network and connect with coaches really appealed to me. And they had, the 2 coaches a month kind of thing going on. And I wanted to kind of expand my network of coaches just to, throw some ideas around, but also, a big part of what we do as a club for us is to try to get kids recruited, and I wanted to kind of build some relationships with coaches that, that they would, we send mass emails out, but they would actually trust kind of what I'm saying, when I say, hey, there's a kid from Japan that wants to play basketball in the US. And, a lot of coaches are going like, what's coming out of Japan, but we've, so it was great for me to kind of be able to find just different coaches to kind of connect with. And there's a number of coaches through Rising Coaches that I've, built some relationships with. And I continually still now just text with them and kind of catch up with what they're doing.
That's awesome. Technology has made it so accessible. And like you said, during the pandemic, things like Zoom and podcasts and virtual clinics became more of the norm, and glad you were able to take advantage of it. So tell us about your basketball journey, or at least, how you got to where you are, and how how you're a head coach and a club coach and all those combined, and another job, and you travel, and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, there's lots to it. I'll go back to where just moving to Japan. I moved to Japan, like I said, I think 16 years now. And I came to teach English. My mother's Japanese. I was born in Japan, but I grew up in California. We left when I was 2. So my mother didn't speak Japanese to me, and I, didn't really learn it. So I was in college. I started to try to learn it, and decided to, come out here and just, do what people do to get here, just teach English. And so I did that for a year, and that was some tough work, because I was working with like little kids from babies in the womb to 18-year-olds. So it was an interesting experience. And then I moved on. I had some background in working with kids with autism. So that was kind of building my background with counseling, things like that. And I got hooked up with a school, and they wanted to hire me because I had a counseling background prior when I was in the States. And it was just kind of a small school, like an alternative school, that you have in the U.S. of kids that don't quite kind of fit into the other international schools. And there were a few kids there that wanted to play basketball. And I had, basketball knowledge. And so I said, well, the school had no sports program. So I said, well, let's try to, put something together and throw a team together. And one of the kids he lived in Hawaii. He was Japanese, but lived in Hawaii. He went to Punahou. He was pretty good. And so let's try to get this together, and at that point, my coaching experience was probably like 3rd and 4th grade basketball when I was in high school. I did some volunteer stuff like that. So jump in this league, and there's a bunch of other schools, 6 or 7 other schools that are kind of similar size. And just try to figure it out. And lucky enough, like we won the championship that year, and then it's just like, okay, this is kind of fun. I'm interested in it, and I love the basketball. So it wasn't like it was something completely new. Just the coaching side was. And eventually I moved to St. Mary's, which is where I'm at now. And they had both the varsity and JV coaching position available. And I just said, I'll take whatever you would give me. I'm there to learn. And so they took me on as the JV coach. And we had some kids that had a little bit of talent, and, the school itself, it's about 1,000 students, K-12, all boys. But the high school is about 250. And so within the league itself out here, within international schools, there's the bigger schools, at least in Tokyo, there's, 3 or 4 of them. And there's, 3 military schools. So we got Army, Navy, and Air Force that are out here with their own military bases. And they have, obviously the kids living kind of American high school experience out here. And so made it through our first year, and, I networked some people, and we decided to start kind of like a summer basketball for our St. Mary's International School, which was what hadn't been done. And we kind of got hooked up with some other schools that decided they wanted to do it too, because there's just an interest in having more basketball. And then I got invited that, I think it was my first summer to, someone had brought out, I don't know if you know Dave Taylor, who runs the Phenom camps out in San Diego. These national camps that, like, the NBA guys kind of go to when they're young. And someone was bringing them out. So I was like, well, can I go over there and help you guys out? I was just interested in just learning more about coaching and getting into it. And came out, and we brought, 6 or 7 of our guys to be in this camp. And him and I really hit it off, just had a he's a California guy too. So we just kind of hit it off, and had the same kind of philosophies and thinkings, and just, created kind of a friendship. And then he really became like a mentor for me, to kind of, teach me a lot about what coaching and things like that. And he had actually been involved with the pump tournaments in LA for a long time. And so he was basically kind of running those tournaments, and he said, hey, there's some talent out here. Why don't you bring an AAU team out? Cause he'd seen some of the players. And I was like, okay, like, when I was in California, we're in the middle of California, around Fresno is where I grew up. It was only the top players around there were playing AAU, when I was going through school. So it was like, and I hadn't been in, the States for some time, didn't know how much it had blown up. And so that first summer, so it would have been like 8 years ago now. So it's 2014. We got 11 kids together, all but 2 were from international school or base schools. And we had 2 Japanese kids that came with us. And we got destroyed. Like, we just got throttled, going to LA, went to double pump for just one weekend. And even on that team we had, one of the kids, the kid that was from St. Mary's, he went Division III. He went to Santa Cruz. Another kid that went NAIA to Vanguard. Another kid that went to Fayetteville D2. He was a little bit younger then. And so we had like these college players, and some of them ended up becoming pros. But we just we had no clue what we were getting into, because being in Japan and kind of the international community that we were in, at that point, we hadn't done anything outside with Japanese basketball. It was just all kind of within the international school. These guys thought they were big time, and I just like, okay, you guys, yeah, you're pretty good. So it was a pretty steep learning curve for me, and the amount of notes I took afterwards about like the things that we were just, needed to just get better at. And so we kind of continued on that, and I was just, still coaching high school basketball and doing my job. But then, the next thing comes around and like, let's get these guys together. Let's create another team. And the next year we took out 2 teams, a 15U and a 17U. And that year, a 17U was much more competitive. I want to say, no, yeah, we were much more competitive. So we were able to, at least be in games and in a position to try to win games. 15U was not. They were just getting smashed, but it was okay for us. Like, this is about development, and so That after that first summer or second summer, someone from the Japanese community emails a couple schools and says, "Hey, the under 16 national team wants to play. They want to play Americans. Can you play?" And I was waiting for our varsity coach to say yes or no. And then I knew another school, and so I replied back to this guy, and I just said, "Yeah, I got a club team. I'll bring some guys out." And for us, like, we hadn't done a lot of practicing. All our practicing came in April, May, June, just to get ready for the summer, and then we played in July, and then came home and like, all right, we're good. Wasn't like a year-round club or anything like that. So got some kids together, and at that point we had some pretty good talent. And one of the kids ended up he was a 6'9" kid that had played soccer at St. Mary's High School. And when I saw him when he first came in, like, my office is right next to the admissions office, I said, "Who's that kid? We need that guy to play basketball." And they're like, "No, he plays soccer." What a waste. He's like 6'8", 6'9", what a waste. So I would go up to him in the hallway and be like, "Hey, you need to play basketball. If you play basketball," I know nothing. It's like, if you play basketball, you can be on the national team. I think that's because he's coordinated. And so the kind of backstory with him is that there's a big rivalry, like American kind of, not really packed gym, but like our gym holds like maybe 600, 700 people. And American school versus St. Mary's is like the big rivalry. And there's 700 people in there. And so it's loud and raucous and kind of that American atmosphere. And he said he watched that game, and he's like, at that point, he's like, "I want to play basketball. Like, this looks like it's fun." So I ended up taking him and our other players. And, my thinking was, we're playing Japan's under 16 national team. Like, these guys got to be phenomenal. Like, they're going to just destroy us. So I'm happy if we're within 40. That's just like, got to be it. And in that game, 3 minutes to go, and we're down 7. And I was just like, I was shocked. I'm like, how is this possible that this is supposed to be? And all of our kids were 16 years old. How is it possible that we're this close? And before that game, I said to the coach, I said, we brought probably 11 guys, and I said, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, they're all Japanese. Most of them are half, right? They're biracial, whether, African or African-American or American. I said, they're all biracial, but, no one knew who they were because they're in this international community. And the 6'9" kid, he's like, "Who's that guy?" And I said, "Well, that's Avi Schaefer. He just started playing basketball like 6 months ago." And they ended up, they said, "Hey, let's play again." So we played again a month or two later. And they ended up picking up Avi to play on the under 18 national team. And then he ended up playing in the under 19 Worlds with Rui Hachimura. And it was with that group. And that's kind of where we started a little bit getting involved with Japanese basketball. Like, at that point, we were involved at all. And so, fast forward, over the time, at one summer, we brought like 30 kids. We bring like 3 teams there. And, the COVID year, we're going to bring 40 kids over. We could just start to see, like, around that time, Rui, right? 2 years after that, Rui is getting drafted, and he was playing Gonzaga and then getting drafted. And then you have Yuta Watanabe going from George Washington, getting into kind of the G League. And, you can just start to see, like, basketball start to grow in Japan and more people interested. When I came here, there's not a lot of basketball parks that you can go to. But I would never see kids carrying a ball around or, that look like they're ready to go play basketball. But now it's like, it's more common for sure than it was before. And so you can kind of see just how the sport is completely grown, and there's just so much more interest in it. And so part of, like, our original mission for us as a club was, we want to try to get these players to the U.S. to play in college. So our guy that went to UC Santa Cruz, that was kind of our first one to kind of help him out. And I just helped him out because he was at our school. We started, just, I was doing, just sending out emails to everyone and, "Hey, come check out this kid. I don't know what the level he's at." And, I kind of had an idea. But over the years, we were just kind of able to, get a few more kids. And then our guy Avi ended up going to Brewster to play there for prep school. And then he ended up walking on at Georgia Tech and was there. And he just came to visit today. Like, he came to practice, to kind of tell our kids a little bit about a story, and because the kids were asking like how he got there. And in Avi's case, he ended up leaving after halfway through his sophomore year to come back to play Japan, to play pro, because he wanted to play in the Olympics. He wanted to qualify for that, which he ended up doing. He played in the last Olympics. So again, going back to our mission is just like, we've been just trying to, and for myself, just really trying to, touch base with coaches and show that, just the type of talent that's out there, that's coming from Japan. And as I said, as the sport is growing, there's going to be more and more of these athletes coming out, and last year was kind of a big deal because, Casey Tominaga, who was at Ranger College, played at Nebraska last year and playing high major basketball, and that there's some real interest in what's happening as far as players being interested, and now other players becoming more interested in actually going to the U.S. to play, and that's what we're trying to help that process.
For sure. Yeah. Great story. Great insights on kind of how it's grown, and it's going to continue to grow. So how could the Rising Coaches community, or anyone listening, or people in America, help you grow? I mean, you talked about networking through your mass blast emails, and those get hit or miss, and they kind of get buried, or, a lot of slides. Because when I'm a junior college coach, and not to discredit junior college in any way, shape, or form, we at least have some scholarship money to give. But for me, I get 15 to 20 of these a day, whether via email, direct message to our Ellsworth account, or direct message to my personal Twitter or Facebook or anything. And, that's kind of wild to think, like, a lot of them just get slid and delete, slide, delete, slide, delete. Yeah. And so how can we help you? How can we help grow Japanese basketball, especially at the youth and prep level?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like it's just being open to, I would guess that 3/4 of Rising Coaches has gotten something from me. Like, I've sent out so many emails to, I'm sure, and I understand, and to me, it's the odds of, how can I make this subject appealing enough, or what can I put in here that's appealing enough? And I think it is. It's like throwing darts a little bit, of trying to like just see where it might land. And I've gotten lucky, and like I said, like, some of it has actually been because of Rising Coaches, and because like I just formed relationships with, like, the 2 coaches a month, or like whatever was posted or something like that. Those are some of like my go-to guys now. Like, I'll just kind of text them. It's like, hey, I got a kid. What do you think? Yeah, maybe not here, but I got a JUCO, right? That might be looking for him. And is he willing to go JUCO, or is he willing to go prep school, or is he willing to, and that kind of, again, takes another step in the network of creating another link in the chain of, someone else that might be able to help our kids kind of get that exposure. That's just a lot of it. It's just that, the kids and that's why we bring kids out there to the U.S. is just to give them an exposure. And I know a lot of coaches, like, it's hit or miss, like for us, where we go to play. Sometimes like double pump was great when it was going, but that's gone. And then, what's the next one for us to go to? I mean, we're going to Hoop Group this summer because we're just trying to find that next place to go that's going to kind of give ourselves some exposure and give the kids kind of a look, and I also know that, budgets are limited, or, number of coaches going out is limited. And so we film every game and we put it together, and we'll put a tape together for our kids, that they can send out, or I can send out, and try to get them at least seen, or, at least recognize that, that that someone can see and that might be at the level or that's at a need. I mean, to be honest with you, coming out of Japan, there's often not a lot of height, which is kind of difficult to you got a lot of these fine point guards, well, dime a dozen, right? So what's going to set these kids apart? And that's what I think, for like the Japanese kids and Japanese basketball, I mean, there are some things that are going to set them apart just because oftentimes they're quicker than most of the guards that are out there, and their defense is really, really good because it's one of the kind of the staples of Japanese basketball is that the on-ball defense, and oftentimes the shooting is pretty good. But if you haven't actually seen that type of player before, you go 5'10", 160, you kind of move on, and then so we try to at least when we put tape together to highlight some of the things that they can do that's going to be a little bit more of a separator for them. So, I mean, as rising coaches, I mean, it's just like being open to it, or at least connecting with people like me, because I know there's people outside of us like me, right? We're trying to get our kids seen and just being open to it, because I mean, I think there's going to be, I mean, there is a little bit of not a big gold mine, but there's a mine that's going to start to kind of blow up a little bit because more and more kids here are becoming more and more interested, and it's across, all levels. We're not just looking for kids when you want, we're happy if they do. And I think in the last 2 years, there've been 7 that are going to D1 from Japan. And we've been involved with 6 of them. But most of our kids aren't that. We're looking at D2, D3, JUCO, whatever it is. Like our kids are just, wanting that a chance to play. And that's what we're trying to provide them.
Yeah, opportunity is everything. And like you talked about, the supply and demand. Your supply is supply and demand are both growing, and so hopefully you can continue to build your program. We're going to kind of flip a switch here. So you have a unique background that not all coaches have. You have a counseling background. How have you utilized your trainings through, psychological and counseling and other things to help you not only in coaching but also building a your own brand and company in essence with your club team?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they don't go together. I mean, right? Because as a counselor, you want to be calm. You want to be really like not calculating, but really like listening and empathetic. And I mean, I think it's really benefited me in building relationships with some of the kids and parents and things like that. But I'm a human being too, so like you get angry and you kind of like kind of explode because things aren't going the way they go. And that's not really my personality anyway. Like as a coach, I'm not like a fiery go curse some kid out kind of thing. I think it goes along with being a counselor. But I think it's been like super useful to me to kind of think about what motivates players, because we're talking about individuals, right? And individual players and thinking deeper of, what is going to push them a little bit more, or trying to read it a little bit better of, what's the nonverbals that are going on, rather than just like, this is my way or the highway and just keep going through, what is the atmosphere that's going on, that within each individual player, but within each, as the team itself. I wish I could say I'm really good at being able to do the counseling with the coaching. And I know for myself, that's this thing that I constantly try to get on myself, because I know I like to I get so involved in like play after play, and moment after moment, and not always taking a step back, and looking at the whole picture here of what's going on. And it's something that, I try to remind myself in games, just, I feel like I'm just like barking out orders all the time and really need to step back, and then start to analyze a little bit better. But, for me, I feel like it's just the counseling background has been super useful for me, like I said, to connect with players and having that outside of the basketball time, that ability to just talk with we talk with kids and find out more about their story. And, I think I was actually having a conversation with one of our assistant coaches about that, about just how, as players that we grew up, our coaches were just kind of like there and coached you and gone, and that how kind of now there's more to it. And there is, like, that's been talked about, that the mental health aspects of things, and how, our, the players' bodies need rest, but their minds need rest. That they do need a break. I mean, we had a kid that was playing prep school, and he came back and was having a bit of a hard time. And, that's the conversation I'm having with him then. It's like, yeah, you need a break. You need to step back. It's like, it's okay to not pick up a basketball for 2 weeks. I mean, that's okay. It's not like your basketball is done because you did that. It's like you need that time to step back away from, the pressures that you're feeling and get yourself right. And I think I hope as coaches, I know that's my background, but I hope that that's something that, more coaches can kind of just be aware of. Yeah.
Rest and relaxation to recharge. If you empty your tank every day and you're not recharging your tank, you're going to run out of gas in more ways than one. Like you said, mentally, physically, emotionally, you name it. As you continue to help get, Japanese kids over to America, or as you see maybe American, kids coming back and forth, or being far from home, or, having challenges with culture, or I'm about to coach, a kid that's from Japan. I'm really excited about getting him over here. What are some things when his English isn't the best, and it's not always going to be a vocal relationship because there's going to be challenges there, and, being halfway across the world. Give us, what have you noticed in trying to balance those cultural differences, and especially the English barrier? I mean, you talked about it a little bit yourself when you first went over to Japan and trying to, learn Japanese again, or I guess learn it for the first time in essence, but your English was very stellar. So, talk a little bit about that.
Food. I know our kids that go over there, they get so excited when their parents send them food. In a case of like your player coming over there, I would go scout out the Japanese restaurants that are close by. And I'm being serious. Like there's such a big difference between diet in the US and diet in Japan. And I would probably say, like, it's probably similar to whatever country the kids are coming from, is, they miss that. And they talk about dorm food. And then oftentimes, like, the conversation I'll have with those kids is like, how's it going there? It's good. I don't like the food. It's greasy. Because Japanese food is very healthy. And lots of rice. So they eat rice, and it's a staple here. So it's eating rice every day. So I think that's a great way to connect and get kids to feel comfortable, because I think that's what they miss a lot. I know languages, and it's difficult if you're in a place that doesn't have another kid that speaks the same language, and it's trying to, say for Japan, it's halfway across the world, that it is a little bit difficult to actually communicate with people on the other side of the world, when you're over there. So, I mean, it's for them, I think, as well, and they're going to do it, but, having them check in at home and having checking in with their friends and things like that. I think one of the things that they also struggle with is when can they get home, and the holidays they're at school, where do they go? And the programs that our kids have gone to, they've been really good about finding them places to go for Christmas or Thanksgiving, or somewhere. Some of them will have family that might be around, but I think that's really important. They have somewhere to go, and they feel like, that they're in a community that cares about them. It's not like they're left in their dorms. And we've had that, where kids have been basically left in their dorms in certain places because there's no one that could take them. So I think that's really, an important aspect for, these international kids. But for the most part, I mean, we haven't We haven't had too many kids who are like super homesick. They don't want to, they're done. I don't want to do it anymore. They came to play basketball and that's what they want to do. But I think, the language is hard. It is stressful for them, right? Because it's like, you think you're sitting in the classroom where you understand half of what they're saying, some of them, right? And it's like, it becomes hard you have to sit there all day listening to this language that you barely know. Because I can imagine, I probably know as much Japanese as they know English, a lot of these kids, and sit there and it's like really having to concentrate on what's being said and just how taxing that is. And I know for them, like getting in the basketball court is just like a relief in a sense. We're like, there's something I know. I might not know what you're saying to me, but basketball it's a world language. They can figure it out once they watch it. And I would say, like Japanese players, like we have them in our program. Like we coach in English. We have most of our players are bilingual, or a good amount of our players are bilingual. So if there needs to be some kind of translation on the spot, they could do it. We have staff that can translate. But they're really good at just picking it up real quick about, hey, let's do this. And I'll say it, and then you show it, and they go, okay, they get it, and they can just move on. So that's something that I've been really pleased with, and it's different than our international players. They don't listen as well. They're just not quite as good listeners, and kind of like they wait for someone else to repeat it again or something like that. And the Japanese kids, it's like one time, and it's part of the Japanese basketball culture.
Interesting. Yeah, food's the heart and soul, huh? So.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Food and making them feel like it's a home and family, and like anything when you're taking a bunch of young men or wherever you're coaching from different areas, different backgrounds, and you got to make them one family. I think that's
right.
The key to building a big time program, and hopefully we can do that here. And I appreciate your insight on that topic. Is there anything specific that I should have asked you that I haven't so far? Is there anything that you would any questions I haven't asked that I should?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm happy to actually. One of the things I think is interesting is just like people, actually Japanese basketball. Japanese basketball is very different than American basketball, right? American basketball is you play for your high school team from say November till March, and then from March through maybe October, you're playing club basketball, and who knows, maybe they're switching teams in the fall. I don't know. And that's just kind of the cycle that goes round and round and round. But Japanese basketball is year round. So you play for high school. You play for your high school team as you enter as a freshman. Well, there's 3 years in high school, so it'd be a sophomore, but and that's what you do. And kind of what happens is there's these powerhouse Japanese high school teams that recruit, right? They'll go around and they'll try to, or kids will, I guess, send them film or try to drop into practice, something like that. And those like high level teams, they practice all the time, and they practice 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 practices. They just constantly practice. So the ongoing kind of joke is, they practice 370 days out of the year because they practice so much. There's not a lot of downtime. And in reality, like we had one of our kids that played in one of the schools, and he's like, yeah, I probably practiced like 350 days or some kind of basketball activity. Like they just constantly, and that's just kind of the culture, sport culture here. You hear about these baseball players that have thrown thousands and thousands of pitches, as high school players, and their arms have thrown as many pitches as professionals or things like that, right? There's just this kind of desire for perfection, and that kind of, and the drills will be the same drills over and over. So we'll go into a gym, and there'll be they call it mini basket, right? Like under 12, and no coach. They'll run the practice themselves because they know exactly the drills they're going to run, and they'll run them. There's no messing around. They'll run them to perfection. They'll just keep running them. And then one of the leaders will go, okay, we're moving on. Now, it's not always the case, but that's what we've seen is that they know what to do and they won't mess around. They'll just do the drill, and so they can do these things with precision, which is very different from the type of players that we have, right? Our international players are basically like American, most of them are American. And it's just like, if you're not paying attention to them, they're going to start goofing around kind of stuff like that age. Or they're talking or the things like that. Japanese kids are practice, never talk. Right? It's just yes, coach kind of stuff all the time. So later on, I'll be really interested to hear kind of your feedback of like how, your player is, just kind of how he is, and depending on where the coach that they have, there are some younger coaches coming in, but there's a lot of older, like long in the tooth coaches, and they're old school military style, barking orders, yes coach kind of things, and not always saying the nicest thing to their players. Very old school military kind of style, and it's very, to me, it's very fascinating, right, to kind of see it. And I think that's a little bit where some maybe the appeal of Japanese players coming to our program is because we're just not like that. There's so much variety with us, and there is some talking about relationships and things like that. So it is very different culture that happens.
It's fascinating to even think that you just have the awareness to understand and recognize that. And I couldn't even envision, we might do a few drills the same every day, but you got to change it up because they're going to get bored. And we don't do drills just to do them. We're very practical in what we're doing, but it's so unique that that's how it's done, and it's continuing to be done that way. But like you said, there's younger guys or people like yourself that have that awareness and understand there's more to it than just the business aspect of, hey, just become a phenomenal listener. But there's the best of both worlds there too. So, it'll be, I'm excited to get Bruce over here and coach him, but I'm very uniquely intrigued by, the different things. And I'm going to ask him a lot of questions.
I'm actually curious I'm actually curious because one of the cultures here in Japan is when you sub out, they bow when they go off the court. And I'm going to be interested if he keeps doing that once he gets there.
Maybe our whole team will start bowing. It'll be
because one of the kids, I know he's going to Northern Illinois. I think he's going to continue it on because he still does it. And he was doing it at St. Thomas More still. And I'd be curious if he still does it. I think he will.
The uniqueness of the respect that goes beyond it. Now, have you noticed with that when they're upset or angry or have that emotion, do they still do that?
There is no emotion.
It's just going to be some emotion. You talked about how fun the environment is.
I'm over exaggerating, but yeah, there's they try to keep it in check a lot. And that's the kind of the discussion that we have with our players, the Japanese players that are there. Is like, come on, you got to show me something. It's just stoic, stone faced. I'm like, man, you got to give me something. Like, I don't know what you're feeling. I don't know what you're thinking, because it's just like, just how they are. And not all the kids are like that for sure. Like, there is some emotion, right? They make some big plays and they get all, hyped about it. One of the interesting things is that pregame's great. Pregame's awesome in Japanese schools. They're chanting and going and all together and saying the same things. And the bench decorum's kind of the same. Everyone's right all together. But, you go higher and it's like one of the national team coaches they do all this chanting and cheering, but you get them on the court, they don't do it. There's no more talking. So again, it's just a fascinating kind of culture that's here. And, it's foreign to me. I'm Japanese, but it's foreign to me because I never grew up with it. But some of that stuff, I was like, yeah, this would go well in the States too. If you can get them all kind of chanting together and doing some kind of, not cheer, but just saying the same things together and getting them going. And to be honest with you, it intimidated some of our guys. It's kind of like the New Zealanders doing their little, their little dance. Yeah, that chant is because they're bringing in, say, 30 kids. Like in a lot of the sports, they don't cut kids. It's like a club. So they'll all come and they're all chanting. And that's why they have like some of these 3-4 hour practices, because they just have so many kids in the program. But it did intimidate some of our kids, the younger ones, because they're just like, what is this? Like, this is so, and then the gym's just loud because they're all together in unison doing the same stuff. So there's definitely some, some things that, that I wish I could take away. I haven't gotten the courage yet to do that with our guys and get them to do that yet.
You got to get it on film and share that, in some capacity of understanding, not necessarily a documentary, but the understanding, especially as they come over here. Like, I'm sure they see what, American basketball looks like between the NBA and what's emphasized and popularized, and, on social media platforms, especially.
Yeah.
What they see a skated truth of what it is, but at the same time, they see almost the negative things that come about it. And, just learning, I think it is just teaching others what you do and what's different.
Yeah.
But also, helping others understand is extremely important. All right. As we kind of wrap up here, give us a 24-hour challenge as a coach, counselor, as a director. You do it all. Give us kind of a 24-hour challenge as, coaches in our profession.
Yeah. Like, to me, it's like, who can you connect with, this week, and to be honest with you, within our program, we have a lot of guys and we don't have a lot of coaches. And that's our discussion within ourselves is, how do we connect with each individual? And I think that's so important. I know we all know that, but how do we get it to a deeper level? It's not just the surface of how's school, how's your girlfriend, but how do you get deeper? And what are some ways to do that? And what are the types of questions you ask to get there? As you build deeper relationships with the kids, the more you can get out of them, because, if you keep it shallow, it's just going to stay shallow, and how do you, I think we're all invested in our kids, to some level. We're invested in them, but how do we kind of take it to another level and, show that we really care about what's going on with them, and I think, some of the kids that we deal with are pretty guarded, just their backgrounds and where they come from. And, how do you kind of spend quality time, and what is quality time for them? What is quality time for each individual? Because sometimes it's not just sitting down and talking with them. And, it's kind of like those love languages, right? It's like, I know that we'll want to, as adults, just sit down and talk, but that might not be what they need or what they desire, whatever it is, that's going to kind of get them to come out. So I know it's an ongoing challenge for me. It's like how to build those relationships with individual players, and I always feel like I need to get better at it. I know that's my first career, but it's something that I feel like that just has to show them how much you care about them, and what does that look like? So that'd be my challenge for sure. It's my own challenge, and I think as we get into talking more, as we it's come up in sports, just that the mental health part, and at what point is it beyond my capabilities? Are there things here deeper that needs actual professional help? And if I can't provide that, how can I find a place to provide that for them? It's not all the time. We're not always dealing with those types of situations, but I think we do need to be cognizant of them. Because there is a lot of pressure, and we're all on social media, but I don't think, we didn't grow up as teenagers on social media. And there's a ton of pressure on those kids to make themselves look great and, show that everything's fine. And, that I got this offer, or I got this, and I got this going on, and I'm scoring this. And, there's a lot of pressure on them to please their audience. And, it's a difficult place, I think, to navigate. And then, I don't have the answers to those, like that is, to me, one of the more difficult things to deal with kids is, just in my career is the social media aspect of, their lives are constantly online and constantly being seen, and someone's videotaping them or taking pictures of them, and or whatever it is, or they're doing it to themselves, and I try to stay away from as much as possible, because I know, to me, I don't find it to be terribly healthy, but as a person that runs a program, I have to be, and so anyway, sorry, I went off on a whole nother time.
That was probably the deepest part of our whole conversation. I think it's important to even note, that you made a really interesting point, is that a lot of us coaches, we did not grow up with those pressures publicly. So we may have had them or inflicted them on ourselves or with our parents or our upbringing, but we didn't have it outside. You could get away. Yeah, people may make fun at recess, but now it's not just at recess, it's everywhere. And everything, like you said, is filmed, and it brings a whole nother level to, another thing that young people have to balance. And it's, even gone into parents too, because, they're learning how to parent their kids, but as well as the lives that they live. They want their kid to be perceived as the best on social media as well. And, what we emphasize and what we prioritize right now in our societies may not be the right thing, rather than just being present in the moment of what we're trying to do. You can't change the past. You can only influence the future by what you're doing now and today, rather than other stuff, but finding that fine balance is very unique. And, it's a good point to make. Have you found anything specific that has helped you? You said, I don't have all the answers, but you at least have the awareness of knowing that it's going on. What have you found that has really worked in that specific space?
As far as the
social media, the balance of, perception versus reality in essence.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'll, talking with individual kids about it, you can't get them off of it. You can encourage it, right? Because, hey, Snapchat's bad for you. You should get off of it. Well, great, coach. All right. They're just going to ignore you and move on. It's like, why would I get off of it? All my friends are there. I get to see what's going on. I get to brag about what my life is like, and I think kind of the message to me is like, there's more to it than that. But then again, you're the old guy. You don't know what it's like, so, it is, again, it's having conversations with them about it, that there are some pressures with all that stuff. And, but on the flip side, we have kids that are coming back here, that want to become professional. And I'm sure you're dealing with it there with like NIL. If I have X amount of followers, I might get a deal out of this with someone that's going to be interested in, whatever I have, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is, so again, there's now an additional pressure now that coaches have to deal with too, and I know that that's not something that's done out here, but it is like, I had a conversation the other day because one of our kids is coming back to play pro, and I said, now you're in the business aspect of basketball. There are some other things that, that you could get out of it because of your social media presence, so the kids can use it as a means and a tool. But if they get too far wrapped into it, then we're in trouble. So.
Well, good stuff. Well, I appreciate your time. I know it's late over there, and you you taking the time to not only be a valuable listener, but also a valuable contributor, a networker within our organization. And I want to continue to root you on, and I'm sure we'll be following your teams as you continue to bring them over to the United States. And what's the best way for our listeners to get a hold of you in some capacity, or learn more, or hey, get on that email database of some sort?
Sorry, what did you say? Get on the what?
Get on your email blast. We got to get on your email blast.
Exactly. If you see Tokyo Samurai basketball, that's me. Just search Tokyo Samurai basketball in your inbox, and I've probably been there.
Perfect.
Right. That's where we're at. I mean, yeah. I'm on Twitter. Like myself, again, I don't post anything about myself. I use like our Tokyo Samurai Twitter page. I think it's Tokyo Samurai Basketball AAU. I think it was what would it be? If you search Tokyo Samurai Basketball, you'll see us. Instagram, same thing. I'm on Facebook for myself. If you want to find me as a person and want to connect there. But I'll be honest with you, you probably could search my email and it's probably going to pop up at some point. We use sports recruits as a means to communicate with coaches, and I forgot what the number of emails was in that or connected, either emails or connected coaches I've had through that. And I'm going to continue to do it. So if you haven't gotten an email from me, you might again this summer as we get ready to go travel there in July.
There you go. Well, thanks again for your time, and if you just appreciate all your support.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.